Welcome to Essential EGL+Batch. This video series is based upon EGL Development Tools version 0.8. In today's lesson, which is lesson 15, we're going to talk about exceptions and how exceptions work inside of EGL. Now, we're generating EGL to Java, so we need to know a little bit about how exceptions are handled in Java. But don't let that scare you, because we'll work through it. We'll figure it out. The first thing I want to do is create a package called lab.lesson15, and inside of lab.lesson15 I'm going to create a library called ExceptionLib. I'm going to create a function that's called onHandledException and build out an exception. So the syntax for that is E, which is the variable for the exception, any exception, and then inside of the curly braces we're going to put message equals do, and we're going to run and see what happens when an exception is not handled at all in the EGL code. So we'll need a program, and we'll put in a program that calls ExceptionLib.demo. Now this time we are going to take it for test drive. It's going to be unhandled. So I'll press the console icon and bring up the console. We can see it. And it looks like, well, it looks like a bunch of stuff. And it really is. It's a bunch of stuff from the Java runtime. And all of that entire blue section there that's selected is from the Java runtime. It doesn't mean too much to us at the moment. But that unwieldy message really shouldn't show up in your production quality professional EGL code. So to prevent an unhandled exception from happening, there is a syntax in EGL that is the try onException construct. So that if an exception occurs somewhere inside the try block, it'll go and run the code that's in the onException block. And in this case, we just want to print out an exception. So this is a very shallow exception because the exception is thrown. That's the verbiage for that. The exception is thrown by the code in the same method. Now the exception has a message ID and a message. We're just going to populate the message part, and both of those are strings, by the way. So instead of the unwieldy Java message that comes up, we've reduced that to a proper simple EGL message, and whatever we type in our EGL program, that's what's going to be displayed on the console. Now let's do it a little bit more normal exception. Is that usually what happens is we're deep in our code somewhere when something goes wrong. And the purpose of the exception is actually, instead of a return value, returning an error on each function, an exception can be thrown down, can be thrown so that a chain of functions goes all the way back up, like dig deep calls dig deeper, and dig deeper calls, etc. Now let's look at this when it's unhandled. And we'll notice that in the Java code, it actually has a list of our functions that have been called: demo, deep exception, dig deep, dig deeper, and dig deepest. But that's still the Java way of doing things, an unhandled exception. So let's go back and make this a handled exception, and we'll wrap the dig deep function in a try catch block. And again, the purpose of all this is so that you don't have to deal with errors in the signature of each function. There is a system-wide, like language-wide, automatic return value from every function, which is the exception. This has been another lesson in Essential EGL Batch. Thanks for watching.